second graders, Mrs. Decker here, along with my buddy Ro. We are switching gears away from poetry. So we're going to be doing some work that's going hand in hand with what you've been doing in reading. And we are going to be writing some traditional literature, folk tales, fables, fairy tales. It's going to be really exciting. Today we're going to be thinking of one of the most important parts of a story, the beginning. It's how you get your reader interested in what you're showing them. We're also talking about an adaptation. So an adaptation is taking a story that has already been written by somebody else and changing parts of it to make it your own. We're going to start with something we might be familiar with, BFG. Now, you may have read the BFG, or you might have read other books like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or James and the Giant Peach. But either way, I'm going to show you how I take the beginning of a story and I change it to make it my own. Think about some of the skills that you've used in poetry of adding in really precise, vivid language to make your story come alive. Here's how the story sounds in the original version. The Witching Hour. Sophie couldn't sleep. A brilliant moonbeam was slanting through a gap in the curtains. It was shining right onto her pillow. The other children in the dormitory had been asleep for hours. Sophie closed her eyes and lay quite still. She tried very hard to doze off. It was no good. The moonbeam was like a silver blade slicing through the room onto her face. The house was absolutely silent. No voices came up from downstairs. There were no footsteps on the floor above either. The window behind the curtain was wide open, but nobody was walking on the pavement outside. No cars went by on the street. Not the tiniest sound could be heard anywhere. Sophie had never known such a silence. Now I'd like to share with you the adaptation that I wrote of this story. The Witching Hour. Sophie and Maria couldn't sleep. They often stayed up until odd hours of the night, whispering and giggling together. Tonight was a particularly silent night, and no whispers or giggles were heard. The girls usually needed to keep their voices extremely quiet. Their greatest fear was that someone awoke and overheard them, because they would certainly be separated into different rooms if that happened. On this night, however, the moonlight sliced like a blade through the open window, and a heavy silence hung over the entire house. The girls' eyes communicated to each other the need for quiet. They didn't know why, but the world needed a particular level of silence tonight, and the best friends looked at each other with feelings of both excitement and caution. You see that I took some of the same parts of the original story, but what I did was, after I had read it to myself, I put my book down, closed it up, and I thought about the parts of the story that stood out to me. So the moonlight slicing through the window, that was something that I wanted to include in my own story as well. But lots of it I changed. You notice that I added in a new character. That's going to change up the whole story as we go. When you create your own beginning today, you might choose to add a new character, or you might keep the exact same characters but change the setting. Or maybe you're writing the same story, but you didn't think it was very descriptive in the original tale. I'm excited to see what you come up with, second graders. Make sure you read the story, put it aside so that you're not just copying over something that another person created. Write your own adaptation. I hope you have fun with it.